Breaking news on this Monday on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network and Game Plus TV. The Minnesota Wild have signed Kirill Kaprizov to the richest contract in NHL history at $136 million over 8 years. General Manager Bill Guerin announced the record-setting deal today. Joining us to talk about that and other things is longtime Washington Capitals TV analyst, NHL alum Alan May. Good to see you, Al. Happy New Year, by the way. You knew this was coming down the pipe, and it's now here. What do you think of this deal for Kaprizov?
Well, I'm not surprised. You look around how the league has just grown the salary cap, and how high would it be if they didn't miss that season a long time ago when they were promised an even bigger salary cap from day one. So I am not surprised. Players have the leverage when they play out their contracts. He's a star in a place that's starved for star players. Is he the best player in the league? No, he's not. But his contract was up at the right time. He had a lot of leverage. He had all the leverage if you ask me. So I'm not surprised by the number. Someone was going to pay him. Maybe they wouldn't have paid him that much, but Minnesota needed to keep him because you've got to find a way to keep people coming into your buildings. It's no fun. It's next to impossible to recruit players or big name free agents if you have an empty building and you're one of those teams that sold off everything. It's hard to get that back.
Great analysis. That's why you're so good at what you do. Now, the other day, I was trying to go through my top 5 teams entering the year, National Hockey League, and I went and looked back at last year's top 5 regular season. You would know this. Not many would. Washington was number 2. Like, you can improve on that? That's a lofty goal coming back for this year.
Well, it's going to be hard to replicate what they were able to do last season, and it's not the exact same team, but almost. And the problem line that they had all last season is still a line that's going to have to be restructured this season with players. Mangiapane's gone, Lars Eller's gone. They were always trying to figure out what the third line was. But for Washington, they're not going to be able to sneak up and surprise everyone. And Spencer Carberry's going to have his work cut out for him this season. It seemed like everything during the regular season last year went their way, even with Ovechkin getting injured for 16 games and getting as many goals, 44 goals at his age, and breaking Gretz's record. It's not going to be that easy. And, players, once again, will have to step up. You had a 30-goal scorer that no one had on the board in Ilya Protas. Will Tom Wilson be able to do that again? Connor McMichael came out of nowhere and really started to play a very well-rounded top 6 game. The goalies are the same. The 6 defensemen are the same. They've got to find a way to, fix that third line. And if they can, they may be even better. But, the odds are against that.
Well, like I say, that's a lofty goal. I didn't see them in the Final Four. I guess it's not about the points. Ask Paul Maurice. He coasted for the last 2 months and got his guys healthy and won a second consecutive Stanley Cup. I mean, will the approach change, Al? Like, would Carberry have learned something last year and said, maybe I won't burn all the gas in the tank down the stretch?
Well, I don't know if that's the case, because one of the things that Paul Maurice had was he had a lot of convenient injuries and not taking away. They won the championship, but they used a salary cap. They were able to max out. They were able to get another number one defenseman, and Seth Jones, who took a trim to go there, a small trim, and Chicago helped out a little bit. You got Brad Marchand was willing to go there. And, that third line, in my opinion, won them the Stanley Cup again. And, your top 6 guys get you there, but you really need a solid third line. You need depth on defense. And, right now, they've been sitting in the driver's seat the way they've been able to use the salary cap. I don't buy the no state income tax argument, because look at all the years that, in Florida, Tampa, and the Panthers, and Dallas, all these places didn't have state tax, Nashville, but they weren't winning the Stanley Cup every year. So it's kind of a recency bias. They got lucky, just like Kaprizov. All these things happened at the same time. They had salary cap space, then they had some huge injuries, created even more salary cap space. So that's excellent management. You've got to have an owner that's also willing to pay everyone, even when they're injured. And Vegas has done it. So it's just a matter. Washington, they were way up there when they won the Stanley Cup. They had a lot of extra players. So, the big thing is, how well do you coach during the playoffs? And I thought Paul Maurice, regardless of what he had in the lineup, he pushed all the right buttons. And he had guys doing things. They're the grittiest, they're the nastiest team to play against in a playoff game. Maybe not every night during the regular season, but I love the way they play. I love the way they play in the playoffs, certainly. In Washington, if they want to go far in the playoffs, they're going to have to adopt a bunch of that from the Florida Panthers. You got to play a snarl. You got to play physically. You got to fight for the middle of the ice. And in the second round against Carolina last season, I think Carberry, wasn't able to get his team to do that. And, was he thinking he didn't have to? I'm not sure. But this year, the spotlight will be on him when this team, you still have to say if and when they make the playoffs, he's going to have to be better as well.
I got to say this. I've been at the Panthers camp a lot. I was at their game last night. I'm sitting there going, they're still pretty good. Like Barkov out, Tkachuk out, but you mentioned Seth Jones. Nobody's even talking about Seth Jones. Marchand, Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart. Maurice goes, this guy could be the captain. We could put the C on him today. He's a captain. We're not going to put the C on him, but they're still good, Al. Like, what do you think these injuries are going to do to this team?
Well, it is going to be a struggle. It's not going to be easy because Barkov is the best all-around. Well, I say on the defensive side of the all-around great centerman in the National Hockey League. He can put big numbers up, but he can neutralize your guys. The size and the skating ability. You can't go out there and trade for anyone that does that. And I know they call Lundell Barkov Jr., but it's not. He's not Barkov. And I think it's going to be a struggle at the start of the year. They won't have those fixtures to start. But at the same time, they know how to play. They know what they've got to do. Somehow, some way, they'll figure out the salary cap, and they'll try to trade for another player that's pretty good that'll fill in there. So they're still the champions until someone else hoists the cup next June, or maybe it's them again. But, as long as these rules aren't changing with the salary cap, and I know that there's a little bit different this season how they're going into it. But, once again, if you have an owner that's willing to pay and all that extra money that goes with the salary cap, it's in the rules. Some teams don't do it. They have empty buildings. And you go back to Seth Jones. I kept telling people, this is a guy like the Edmonton Oilers. I felt they should have went after Seth Jones, and they were, people were saying there's no way he's not. Well, it's harder to be a really standout, great standout defenseman on a really bad team like the Chicago roster was the last few years. You're going to put your older guys, your all-around players in so many compromising situations. I look at when Darian Hatcher went to the Philadelphia Flyers years ago. He was doing everything he could to stop the puck. The team wasn't anywhere near ready. Hitchcock had them playing the wrong style. And, all of a sudden, Darian Hatcher forgot how to be one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League. He was getting minuses left and right. You got to airlift those guys out of there and put them in a place where they can prosper. And Seth Jones was simply perfect for the Florida Panthers, and it was an incredible addition, and that just shows to the hockey people upstairs in the Florida Panthers organization. They have a lot of very good guys. Rick Dudley, Les Jackson, old-timers that have been finding great players for years and have been part of winning squads. So, you can't be forgotten. They've got a pretty good front office, and those advisors that they have, the senior guys. Bill Zito is not scared to make, big decisions, tough decisions. And as a result, they're the Stanley Cup champs the last 2 years.
I'm smiling, Al. You always make me smile. By the way, for those that are watching, we're here on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. We're all across Nevada. This is day number 2 on that wonderful channel across Nevada, but also Game Plus Television all across Canada. I was going to say Les Jackson. I was thinking, was he in Brandon for that brief time you were there? But I'm like, wait, he was in Dallas when you were there, and the only mistake Les ever made was cutting you. It's the only mistake he ever made, Al. You and I both know that.
He probably saved my life because I was known to bite off way more than I could chew. I went into training camp in Brandon, and my goal was to take out every guy 6'2" or above. I was in elite condition, and I did do that. But I think over the course of that Western Hockey League season, I would have got my ass handed it to me, and I never would have been able to develop the way I did. And one of the great things about Les, and he's such a good man, is when I was traded to the Dallas Stars, we had a year-end party at Norm Green's house, Norm Green had a year-end party, and it was the first time I'd seen Les after I got traded to Dallas, and he handed me a beer and he said, "Man, I can't believe you made it." And I just looked at him and said, "I can't believe you still have a job in hockey." And we just laughed our asses off. And he wasn't taking a jab at me. He was applauding me for my perseverance. And when you look back at it, you don't like decisions that people make in the moment, but those decisions that the smart hockey people made on my behalf, it helped me make it. I was stubborn enough to keep going and pushing. And he did the right thing at the right time, and as others did when I didn't make certain teams. So my road was different, and thank God I took it. Otherwise, I would not have been in the National Hockey League. I probably wouldn't even play pro hockey at any level.
What a message there is in that story right there. And I see Les around the rink in Sunrise and sometimes on the road, and I'm like, Les, what are you doing? What are you doing with the team? He's like, just be around. Well, what's your title? He goes, title doesn't matter. I'm just around. If anybody needs me, they can ask. What a job! But he's earned it. He's earned it.
You know what? Guys like that, they're just great to talk to. He's got such a great outlook on life and the world and hockey. You can't have enough of the really good quality people around. And for years, I don't think the Florida Panthers had that. Now they're full. They've got too many almost. And I think that's why they're a place. They're a destination, not just the warm weather and, everything they're, the winning, but they're a destination because they've got so many quality people around the organization. They value all of their opinions, and it's working for them right now. 3 trips to the finals in a row. Injuries kept them that first year, and then the next 2, they're so hard to beat. They're nasty. They're awesome. They score goals. They play the funnest brand of hockey in the National Hockey League.
Their front office is like their dressing room. You can't have too many leaders, right? That's what you see. Now, for our Canadian audience, which we love, you're not even shy to say you're an Oiler fan. You're an Oilers alum. Where are they going this year, Al? What do you see?
Well, hopefully the youth pays off for them, but they're going to be a team. They understand. They've got an excellent coach. They play with great structure, and they need to stay healthy. And, that's one of the things that down the stretch last year, multiple times key players were injured. And I'm not sure how much salary cap space they have right now. It changes on a daily basis, and nothing's official until next Monday, I think. But, will defense be an issue? Will goaltending be an issue? Somehow they've been in the finals the last couple of years, no matter who's on their roster. And when you have greatness like McDavid and Draisaitl, you need those guys to be very healthy. But the bottom line is, how will they play without the puck? And that remains to be seen as this season goes on. And they had a key injury last year that everyone forgets about, that Zach Hyman injury. He was mutilating people in the playoffs and, throwing the huge body checks, winning all of his puck battles, scoring key goals, and all of a sudden they lost him. That was a lot of depth on the right side that they lost. A guy that was a really go-to player on the power play, played all the important minutes at the end of periods. He could play any style of hockey there is. He's a shutdown guy, a grinder who has a scoring touch, and you can never have enough of those guys. He's not as nasty as Matthew Tkachuk, but he comes to play every single night, and that injury. So keep their guys healthy and buy time to make a key trade if they have to down the stretch.
6 minutes left with Alan May from the Washington Capitals TV network. If we have time, I'll turn you loose on the viewers. They got questions for you. But for the 2 cities where we are anchored on television, Toronto and Las Vegas, I need to get your take on their teams. Let's start with the Leafs, because they're the Leafs. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, the Leafs are the Stanley Cup champion every year going into the season, but this year they're not. And I think that's a great thing for them. With the loss of Mitch Marner, I saw a lot of things I liked in their roster makeup last year, but as an old-time hockey guy, I saw a bigger defense that could box players out. I saw a team that was starting to play a bigger brand of hockey rather than playing that cute stuff that usually had them sitting on a beach somewhere after the first round. And I think as the season goes on, I really like the way Tree Living has gone into trying to build this team. And, will they need to make additions? They've got to make sure that their third and fourth lines are up to snuff when it comes to playing physical, to playing big hockey. Cute doesn't get you far in the National Hockey League when it comes to a playoff game. Maybe a Tuesday night in November or December it works. But in the playoffs, you need to be gritty. And they've got a roster that with some tweaks, I think they can do some damage in the playoffs. And they've got a coach who everyone thinks is like the biggest hard ass in the league. What he is he's very honest. He's a lot like Paul Maurice. Guys love him. He's one of the funniest guys ever. He's quick with a line. He makes people feel at ease. He treats the players with respect. They stay healthy in net. Maybe need one more player in defense. Would have been a great landing spot for Seth Jones or Aaron Ekblad. I thought they would have to go all out for Ekblad if they could. Because that's one piece they're missing. I think they need a high-end right shot defenseman that can play in the top 2 pairings, and they're right there to make some damage in the playoffs because they still have a lot of key players that have good size that can score goals. So If they can make some changes along the way here, just some additions, they're going to be very formidable come down the stretch.
Mitch Marner has not smiled since he got to Vegas, or has not stopped smiling since he got to Vegas, which speaks a little to our conversation on the phone the other day. The pressure on the kids, the men in Canadian markets versus the U.S. markets. I think this is going to go great.
Well, yeah, well, in Canada, ever since the internet started, the old dial-up, and then we got the cable modems and all that. It's been hell for the players because they hear from it all the time. And you think of a lot of players, they seem like they're agitated in interviews. I always feel for Connor McDavid because it just seems like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, and they're hearing it from every side. And the two national networks are, they're going at it all the time on the players. You have one bad shift, you never quit hearing about it, and people remind you over and over of your failures. You get to Las Vegas, you get to Dallas, anywhere in Florida, even Washington D.C. You have a bad game, you could be -5. It's forgotten by the next game, and guys can live their lives. They can go to the grocery store, and people don't know who they are. And when they do, they're very happy to see the players, very respectful. So that off-ice pressure, I think you can exhale away from the arena, and when you go there, you just put your work boots on. And you hear that with the Panthers. One of the things that I've heard about Maurice, the guys go jet skiing or they're golfing, they have a suntan, whatever. He's not upset as long as when they get to the rink, they're there to work, and they've been great at being able to do that. I know that the Tampa Bay Lightning are the same way. And so when you look at that, they don't have all that extracurricular pressure. And people that don't play in the game, and Canadian people may be mad at me and upset at me, but as a guy that played in the league, you can really feel the difference. And it's fun for us to go up to Canada and get all the fanfare. I was in heaven in the playoffs in the broadcast booth in Montreal, the buzz in the city. But it's got to be hard to have to be on all the time and have every single shift scrutinized to the nth degree. So I think until someone finds a way to crack that code up there and shut the internet off in the playoffs, I don't know if we're going to have a Canadian Stanley Cup champion.
Oh, man. We need to do another sports banquet together. We don't have enough time. We have like 90 seconds. A guy wants to know, Jeremy in Winnipeg wants to know, is this Ovi's last season?
I wish I knew. He looked excellent at practice this morning. And I know that his wife said something last year, but that's just based on his contract. What do you do if you go and pop 40 or 45 or 50 goals? Last season, before that injury, he was on pace to have his best season ever in the National Hockey League. And I think even with the 44 at the end, you add all that up, it would have been a career year. So it's going to be tough. I can't answer that. I hope he doesn't quit because I've always dreaded the day that I'd be covering this team and there'd be no Ovi to talk about. I already missed my boys, Nicky Backstrom and TJ Oshie. I'm not looking forward to Ovechkin hanging him up and John Carlson, two great guys, and have been such mainstays and stalwarts for the Washington Capitals. So I want him to keep playing, and I hope he does.
Sure, but what a hell of a run. Next time, it'll be a while probably till we have you on again, but Tampa Bay is playing Florida tonight in Orlando. I'd love to hear your best neutral site game stories because it's always so much fun. I kind of wish I was there. That was the buzz in the press box last night. Are you coming to Orlando? I'm like, no, I'm not flying on a private jet like you guys are, but I would love to. It'd be fantastic. Alan, thanks for this. We're out of time. Always appreciate it. Good luck with the season.
Take care, Rod. Great speaking with you again.
As always, thank you, buddy. Alan May, Washington Capitals television analyst from the Monumental TV network. We will be coming right back with a sports update and viewer takeover in a moment. You're watching us across the Game Plus television network and the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network, YouTube Live, and 1700 Mission Radio.